Thanks, listeners, for joining us for our regular update in Elko County news in advance of this afternoon's regular meeting. In fact, it's going to be a busy day for commissioners. There is a fire district meeting, there's a health board meeting, and a regular county commission meeting today. We welcome Elko County Commissioner John Karr in studio, recording this just a bit in advance, of course, the same day of the meeting, so we can make sure we can accommodate all these crazy schedules. John, thank you for being here.
Oh, no, my pleasure.
So the first thing we want to talk about, we haven't caught up with you since you were a panelist for a nuclear symposium that was hosted in Las Vegas. Would you mind kind of giving us an update on that? Because now we're starting to hear more about Nevada possibly being part of the Project 2025.
Well, so the American Nuclear Society had a conference down in Las Vegas, and I was asked to be a panelist on community development, as a politician, but then also my degree, chemical engineering, so I had a little bit of knowledge on what they're talking about. The big thing is part of the Biden packages. I don't remember which one, if it was which of his two spending packages, but it actually included a lot on nuclear development. So whether you believe in global warming or not, that's a fact of we're needing more power. We need more electricity. Solar's not keeping up. Wind is starting to die off as an option. I don't read all the politics and why. Either way, it's not. So solar's not keeping up, building huge battery factories to then store the solar and all that. Anyway, nuclear's really getting looked at again. And one of the conference panels I was on is not traditional nuclear power plants like the 3 Mile Island or any of these ones. This is more of using waste, as opposed to, it's not really waste, using the reactor fuel that's already been used, and that as a fuel in a new reactor. So we don't have to mine any uranium. We don't have to do anything special. Just got to build the reactors to do it. This is part of what Bill Gates is trying to do in Wyoming. So they've already broke ground there. They don't have their certificate to build the plant yet, but they're breaking ground on all the infrastructure. Anyway, so I spoke at that, and so I'm working with different nuclear companies that design and build these reactors as hopefully a test facility up in northern Nevada. It would finally put the nail in the coffin in Yucca Mountain, whether you believe it or not, but you wouldn't need Yucca Mountain because we're using that fuel. The other part of this, there's so much more in that fuel of rare earth metals, minerals, and other things that are in these uranium. They're actually like pipes. Think of it a pipe of fuel, and there can be in pellets as well. But anyway, recycling that and reusing it, you can pull a lot other metals out of this as well. So that's why I was speaking with that and working to try to show the political side to change that. A lot of laws have finally been changed that were actually from the 1980s, from the Carter era. It was just as he was leaving office, and some of the people were still in the Nuclear Commission that wrote these laws. And so I talked to Cortez Masto about this, had breakfast with her, and her knowledge on nuclear recycling, nuclear storage, nuclear power was actually extremely shocking. Very, very intelligent woman, knew her facts on that. And she was trying to get some of this law changed to be able to get breeder reactors is one of the styles that can change this. So that's the fact of what I'm working on, and working with Sheldon Mudd on nuclear or on economic development. So we're trying to see if there's a spot up in Elko County or northern Nevada that would host that.
Well, that's what I was just going to say. So it could be Elko County, and this could take obviously years, if not decades, but it's a work in progress.
Hopefully not decades, because even Microsoft and Amazon that are now becoming more computer, Amazon itself's not even a warehouse anymore. It's more of a computer tech company. They're wanting to build huge data centers. Well, these data centers require a ton of power and a ton for a power of AC to keep all that cool. So no, they're huge amounts of energy. And and this is not for or against the migrant thing or not. I'm not talking about, but the amount of immigrants that have come in alone that are going to now require how much power people use, normal American Jews, that alone is a stress on the grid. And then whether you believe in global warming or not, it's definitely getting warmer, as we're seeing, and more energy for AC. It's just a fact. We need more energy. So those three combined, we need a lot more energy. And so nuclear is really the way to go, and that's why I'm looking at this.
Well, thank you, John, for the explanation. Obviously, it's an ongoing topic, and, dispelling the fears about using nuclear byproducts, for example, relying on the advanced technology and then turning those byproducts into a healthier cycle for the environment as well as, for the humans.
The footprint of this stuff is extremely small. These great big solar fields, it'd be 10% of that, if not even smaller, the amount of power that's still. And once again, this is using the spent fuel. This is not even digging a new hole in the ground to get more uranium. This is already sitting there in their little concrete little tanks is what they look like. It's just sitting there.
Right.
So,
and that's been part of the issue is we have all these storage sites across the country. And then in the past, the goal has been to stash them all in one place where it remains radioactive for 10,000 years. But this is not part of that process. This is entirely different. It's recycling this as a byproduct.
There's two different styles. There's recycling it, and so then you're reusing in a traditional reactor, or these new reactors would just take that and they continue using it. And because of that process, you'd end up using that nuclear, that radioactivity till it's more spent. That's not exactly the proper English, but anyway, it's more spent so that the dangerous part is already used up.
It's diluted.
But then the other parts, the elements that come out of there are also highly used, whether it be for medical research or also just rare earth minerals that come out. And those are very, very expensive. And so that's also part of the waste stream that's very profitable.
Well, exciting stuff, John. Thanks for the update there. And again, we'll expect to hear more on this prospect. Certainly, is it something that you and some others are working on, and it's a serious intent. So close to home, we are hearing about some changes in how court services are being administered at Elko County. And so the 4th Judicial District Courts and Elko Justice Courts say they are providing now some services that were provided by the clerk's office. They are providing for filings, jury paneling, court clerk services that have been moved to the courts. So you can seek some of these services, file in person in the basement of the Elko County Courthouse. There is an online system in the works, and basically it's caused a little turmoil, I guess, in this transition. John, is it fair to say, did this involve the county commission?
Well, I've been involved since the beginning this was ever brought up. And this was part of when we were looking at a new courthouse, some of the cost savings, we had looked at separating the two out of the clerk's office anyway. And it's very common. That's what Washoe and Las Vegas do anyway, and Clark. So this is not some weird idea we came up with. It's really also let's start with back to the beginning. The judges kind of made Judge Kaysen more of a senior judge, where before they were all three autonomy. There was do it, whatever. Now it's more of a group, and so combining that group, they've become more efficient in talking, collaborating what they need. And part of this transition is now the staff under the clerk's office is now just transitioned over as part of that whole group. And so now you have truly more of a judicial group per se. It was a little agonizing and a lot of emotions involved in how it happened, and I think it was too quickly spun out. But it was going to eventually happen anyway.
So this was just a month or so ago, right?
Correct.
Okay. So the clerk's office continues to serve and manage elections, notary bonds, dog licenses, marriage licenses, fictitious firm names, as well as providing clerical support for all the various meetings that go on throughout the county, including the county commission meeting. So, is this because the courts were concerned that the Justice Center prospect isn't moving along, John, or what?
No, this was more of typical. If all of a sudden, let's take my employees for example, they're getting confused on who to report to. If I'm saying, "Hey, my priorities are scrambled eggs," and the cook's telling them, "Hey, no, it's actually eggs Benedict." Well, it's a silly analogy, but you get the point. They're kind of going, "Well, wait a minute. We're getting told two different things." So the clerk is our true boss, but we're performing for the judicial center. What is our top priorities on? So it's just kind of a miscommunication. So it was like, well, why don't we just move it under the judicial center? And that way, if there's a confusion, well, you're the boss. It's your area. So there it is. So it's more of efficiency and getting the middleman, the famous term, get rid of the middleman. Well, the clerks, I believe, doing a great job, but was acting as a middleman between the clerks for judicial. The justice of the peace had already had this as their style anyway. Their clerks and everything were under them anyway. So this just followed kind of that model that why aren't our secretaries, clerks, our people all part of us? So that was a transition.
Oh, okay, and that's I wondered about that. You're right. The justice and district courts have already had these systems that were independent. So did the justices have to take some employees from the clerk's office, or were they just able to do with what they have?
No, there was 12 or, well, there was, I think 12 people and then 1 or 2 part-timers. And so I believe 6 of the ones that were kind of doing the judicial sides anyway moved over to the judicial side, truly under their umbrella, and then the 2 part-timers as well. And so then the 6, including the clerk herself, are still as the clerk's office in that office.
So these other employees, the 6 that went with the justice courts, the district courts, let's make that clear. I guess justice and district are together. Now they're all in the basement of the courthouse then?
That I don't know for a fact. This only happened the last couple of weeks, so I haven't been involved in that part of it. I just knew that all of a sudden an email came out that we need boxes because we're moving. So that's what happened.
All right. Sounds like it's a work in progress, something that's evolving. It does impact the public because there are signs, there are paper signs on the doors that say this, these court functions must be done in the basement of the courthouse now. Again, filings, jury paneling, court clerk services that have all been moved over to the courts. So interesting. We'll have to follow up on that, John, I guess just in the interest of time, but that's what you know about it.
It'll be the pain in the rear at first, just a transition, but overall, no, this is what needed to happen. Once again, we probably could have been better and a little slower at rolling it out, but no, this will get smoothed down how it should be.
All right. So I know it's not on the agenda in particular, but we have you here and you've been the one that's sort of been championing the Justice Court, the Justice Center complex itself, John. So are we still pursuing that as a county? We know the basement has problems of Justice Court, right? So
correct. Everything from ventilation to plumbing to whatever. We could go on for hours of how it hasn't been kept up and hasn't had the capital attention it needed. But anyway, moving forward. So Travis, Amanda, and I met with the architects out of Idaho again that designed this and went, hey, this is more of our budget. We need to start chopping. What can you do?
We're like $40 million.
Yeah, something like that. Instead of the 75. They definitely went the whole King Ranch model dually truck that had everything to wait a minute, what do we really need here? And I like what they first did, but now we could look at cutting back. So we're around that 40 million now anyway. And part of it was grouping this. Part of it was making a smaller footprint with the judicial center itself. And so now we'll roll that out to the commission and then start looking at the public if this is where we're headed. Now it's in more of our ballpark or what are we doing, but we at least have something reasonable. I mean, the 75 just, no.
No, that wasn't, even with the county's, additional property tax now that comes to the county first, and everybody's been sort of taking a piece of the pie, including the school district, and they seem fine with what they have. They're working and moving forward with that, John. I mentioned this briefly. Some in the community are concerned about the needs of the county, whether it's building a justice center. We also have some problems with the courthouse annex, right? We had an elevator out, the HVAC was out. There was a huge plumbing issue here just a week or so ago. Is that building giving us some problems?
The elevator, I don't know the whole details if it was the company we were using to fix it was incompetent or just weird parts or something. No, I was shocked how long it took to fix the elevator. But as for AC, fluke part failed and it caused a different part to fail later on. But no, the AC should be fine. It's at the standard. This is not like 50-year-old something we junk and put up there. No, it's just a couple parts went out. As for the plumbing, I got the feeling it was put in wrong, slightly uphill to begin with, and that was the problem. And that's why fixing it, Chester Plumbing actually went, well, here's part of the problem. And we did the extra work to make the pipe correct. And
yeah, it was a street cut.
Yeah. So it went from fixing a small thing to, now we're blocking the street and cutting into it. But everything I understand, it's okay, designed right now, and it shouldn't be a problem. And let's hope we're not back in a month and you're still going, so that problem's not fixed yet, is it? But no, I think it is.
All right. Thanks, John. John Karr is our county commissioner and our guest, kind of getting an update in advance of this afternoon's regular meeting. There are a lot of things on the agenda that I want to make sure that, you're able to talk about in advance of the meeting today. But it is good to catch up with you on all these other sort of ongoing issues. So we'll follow up. There is a community development meeting that is being promoted to the public to talk about the block grant program and the application process. It's next week, July 24th at 5:15. Any reason why in particular the community would want to, because isn't this usually at the direction of the county commission, John?
Correct, but we want input. I want to be more transparent. Than years and years ago, we didn't have a dime to even say about it. But one of the things we brought to the attention, we haven't sometimes applied for, I don't remember the bill back in Washington, but they allowed senators to basically have
earmarks.
Earmarks,
yes,
thank you. That was a better word. Earmarks again. And we haven't been able to be put in for them because we just didn't really do our homework on it. So we're seeing community development. Then there's also other grants out there because of some of the spending that's been going on. So we want community input, see what we want to do.
So this would be an opportunity for the community, the public, to come and talk about what priorities, whether it's affordable housing or more, recreation space or whatever the issues are, or transportation.
Right.
Okay. Just CDBG grants. And that's the topic for the July 24th meeting.
There you go.
All right. Thanks, John. So veering over to the let's talk about the fire commissioners meeting. That I want to make sure Chief Peterson gets his due at 1:15. It'll likely be brief, but there'll be an update on the fire protection district. They've applied for multiple grants and they're looking at some capital improvements. They're working more on, I think, enhancing or supporting all the emergency services in the county.
Correct. They've really been working well with the ambulance and then the E911, the dispatch, we'll call it. So no, it's really been, what do we need to do as a group? Especially the ambulance service out in Spring Creek that we added. It's costing the county quite a bit, but I think it was needed out for the community. So we're figuring out how to optimize that and different grants here. Chief Peterson is really, part of it is fluke on how we managed to bring in some more money on doing that property tax. And a couple other things happen to align, but no, he has been fantastic on reorganizing what are our priorities and how do we get there. Especially he's nervous, seriously nervous this summer about the fire season.
As he should be, right.
If we keep getting these kind of temperatures, and especially the wind, anything above 90 is bad, but 90 in wind is really bad. So that's really where he's nervous. And
we just need people to do their part. If you live in the urban interface area, especially whether it's Rendon, Osino, Spring Creek, Elko Summit Estates, all that, the defensible space, the evacuation routes, it all needs to be taken into consideration.
Correct. But now is not time to gather
mowing
up vegetation and then burn it.
No, that window's closed.
Yes, do not do that.
Right.
And if you are mowing it, be extremely careful on hitting a rock or anything else.
Have a charged hose.
Because there you go. That's that simple. And that cheatgrass, it's shocking. It's like a match. As soon as it's going, it's going.
So be careful and call the fire protection district if you have any questions about anything, obviously, before you start on that.
But so far, they have been fantastic. Any sign of smoke, boom, they're on it.
Oh, I know. It's been
a great crew going, boom, we're there. They had a fire in Jarbidge lightning strike, and it was shocking how quick airplanes were on it, attacked on it, got it out. No, they're...
And of course, the deeper we get into fire season, the harder that will be, simply because resources will get stretched. So humans
Correct.
have to be extremely careful. They jumped on something at 10 Mile yesterday, and it was less than a quarter acre, I think. So great job.
Yep.
Yeah. So on to Board of Highway Commissioners, there's a county local road safety plan, and NDOT is helping develop this. It's kind of their long-range goal. We've had a lot of fatalities, even in the city of Elko, John, that the police chief, or the fire chief, I believe, they were saying that we, unofficially, but they think we've had like a 40% increase in accidents in city limits, just vehicles, pedestrians, vehicle versus vehicle. It's just been a crazy...
That part I'll take your word for. I haven't been involved much, but wouldn't surprise me, especially up kind of that Cimarron West area.
Mountain City Highway, yeah.
Up in that area, just how many people are crossing right there. And I've seen quite a few accidents in that area myself.
So whether or not there's anything that agencies can do, it's certainly up to personal responsibility too. The Flight Alliance is going to make a presentation, and Elko County has been kind enough to contribute about $500,000 to this Flight Alliance to enhance commercial air service in Elko.
Correct. I actually went on a bowling conference in Denver, and it was extremely nice to be able to fly out of Elko and fly back in. And it's actually using Sky Miles extremely reasonable. I don't remember extra $100 for each of my wife and my son or something, but it was very reasonable and a nice plane. They just got their remodeled one in, plenty of room. It's part of, there's a size limit on planes, and I could be wrong on this, but basically if it's more than 50 people or something, you need a different pilot's license or something like that if it's under 50. So they remodeled these planes to have I think, fit less than 50 seats. So now we can use the newer planes, and these pilots can fly them. And no, very comfortable. It worked out great. It's kind of, they only have two, one coming in and one coming out at night, or coming back in at night and leaving in the morning, but still, it worked out great. So yes, trying to keep that going. And when I had breakfast with Masto, that's one of the things I talked about. And I'll even be blunt. She goes, well, you ever going to go for a state senator or assemblyman? And I go, I got to be honest, that's a horrific job covering this huge area, and I don't even have air service. If there was air service to Reno or Vegas or something, it'd be extremely helpful. But I mean, that's got to be one of the worst jobs in Nevada right now, driving all the area, but then driving to when they're, the legislature's in session. Everybody else can go home for the weekend, but you're driving 5 hours there, 5 hours back, and so I kind of laughed and said, heck no. But she goes, I'm actually finding out more regulations that I didn't know were existing that I'm actually trying to change at the congressional level to help with that. So I'm trying to hit it at that angle too, so we can keep air service.
Well, thanks, John, for the update. It is, some things are out of our control, but you're right. If we make our the lawmakers aware of it, and then they can work with constituents and agencies to help change some of these. I mean, redistricting, that's killed us in rural Nevada. I mean, that's just been terrible. That has to be fixed. So that going forward.
I hope so, but
look
that's
at the
all
chances.
part about voting.
Exactly. Elko County School District is on the agenda today with a quarterly update, John. So they're going to be talking about capital improvement projects. We know that's always interesting to you.
I don't know what all they're going to go over. If they're going to be talking more on Hawaii and keeps up to date. I was fortunate when I was in Colorado, the school district committee I'm on, I didn't make that meeting. And CJ and I are supposed to talk later this week, but we'll see how much he updates us in this meeting. And then the county capital meeting, I believe, is next week for the county side of this. So
that's what I was going to ask. So the county, because we've been talking with the different governments, and all of these capital plans are usually anywhere from 3 to 5 years, but they're not set in stone, right? They're fluid.
Correct.
And you do want to hear from the public. If the public wants a livestock event center, and everybody's aware of it, then that's something that the county needs to know about, not just a certain special interest group, right?
That's the point.
So
now I wish the public was still a little more involved. It's disappointing that you'll get 3 or 4, 8 very, very vocal people on a very small topic, but overall, no, we receive very little input on any of this stuff.
And some people then complain after the fact. So you're right, whether it's about elections or what kind of capital projects, or people who are grumbling, saying just fix what we have before we build other stuff, right?
Yeah, exactly. So I don't know. It's tough to tell how much is the loud few or the majority that just really are kind of do what you want. I don't know their reaction. Please just don't bother me and I don't care, or how much they just don't have time to be involved. I don't know, but I wish they'd be a little more input.
John Karr is our county commissioner and our guest here as we're talking about these county issues in advance of the regular meeting. That's a chance to get involved. I mean, that's why we do this radio show. We've been doing it for years, John, just to make people aware of city and county issues, certainly, and the way that they can make a difference. I think some people doubt that they make a difference, but they really do when they come and speak to the commission or write letters or email now. That's
what's sad is they really can make a difference. I was surprised even years ago when I talked to one of the mines was doing a public, an EIS study and all that. And sure enough, the government guy's going, yeah, this is going to be a problem because of very vocal community and all that. And I was like, well, wait a minute. How many public comments did you get? 3? Like, wait a minute.
3 people
you got
steered a
3
decision.
Public comments that were in the negative, and you're saying this is going to be hard to do because of 3. Well, we only got 3. Well, you didn't get 3 positive, so it would have been a 50-50. No, they all just kind of went, no, it's not a big deal. So they were looking at 3 negative ones. So no, it can make a huge difference. I still wish people would understand how big a deal it was to get our governor elected. If you compared that to other governors through the whole nation, an incumbent to have been beaten out like that was the stats were really not in Lombardo's favor at all. So. And that makes a difference. The rurals are what helped get him elected. So I wish people are understanding more. It does make a difference. And it certainly will going forward, too. So in the November election, I'm sure. Yeah, you look how low our turnout was for the primary. Oh, I know. Wasn't that sad? I mean, yeah. Come on, you guys. I mean, at least vote. But And I've said more than once, vote Republican, not as a Republican. Well, I still think you should vote Republican, but register as a Republican just because most of your primaries here, they're almost all Republican candidates. That's how you make a difference.
Right. And then if you were to ask other opinions, they'd say, open the primaries so everybody can participate, right? All the parties, all the voters.
And there's 100% truth to that, other than in other real districts, you could then, we'll pick some really out there wing-ding and they'll get elected as the Republican candidates and the Democrat can win, or the other way around. Those kind of strategies happen. So I don't know what the true best practice is.
Well, speaking of strategies, there is an agenda item, and we're jumping around a lot just in the interest of time. So
there's a lot on the agenda, but there's not really any huge
controversial topics.
Thank you. That's the way to word it.
Yeah.
Correct.
Discussion of bill draft request for the upcoming session. There is a deadline, and the bill draft request is due no later than September 1st. And Elko County gets to have one. And I printed off what was being considered.
I'm glad we're finally looking at. And I could be incorrect in this, but I don't remember in the last 8 years we ever really were discussing, working with the city, working with anybody, going, why aren't we putting in a bill draft for when the legislature meets?
Yeah, and there are already, several pages of considerations. Bert Gurr is our representative in the assembly. Well, I guess this is all a given because we have to get through November.
Correct.
But both Bert Gurr and then John Ellison easily outdistanced challengers in the Senate race in the primary. And so that's pretty much a given. I mean, as he said, we just have to get one vote. So he's already working on bill draft request, as is Bert Gurr. So that will be discussed. There's also a health board meeting, and I didn't want to miss mentioning the fact that, there are some significant things happening in the health world with Northeastern Nevada Regional Hospital, literally breaking ground, if you will, or at least remodeling their third floor behavioral health unit that will open in September or October. It is a 16-bed unit, and it should make a difference.
I'm certainly hoping so. I don't realize how big a deal that will be in the public when I wish it wouldn't. I wish it would make a difference at all because we don't need it, but that's not the case. So no, I'm very excited about this. It will be a big deal and it'll be a big help to our jail, where unfortunately a lot of people are at the jail because there's nowhere else to put them when they're not criminals. They truly just have some other issues.
Well, in fact, that's part of the capital improvement discussion, right, John? Because we're looking at expanding in that final footprint of the Elko County Jail for a separate behavioral unit for inmates.
Correct.
And do you think that's still a consideration?
No, it is. We're still looking at it, just how much. We have an architectural firm that we picked that specializes in jail that will look at how to design that, because currently there's also some other issues where they even store things in some other, with the sheriff's office now. It's not designed quite right. It's a bigger deal than you think. It
may have, some things may be outdated, certainly. So it's a good point too, John. Just we're at this point where, as you said, the capital plan will be presented sometime next week. Is that going to be a special county meeting, or do you know how that's going to be rolled out?
Which the capital?
The county's capital? Yeah.
No, that's just that committee.
It's a committee. Okay.
Yeah, that's that committee that I'm on. Okay. Dr. Byers is on. Anyway, that committee.
Okay. And so,
but that'll report back to the commission and also back to the school district.
And that'll be I see what you're saying. And that'll be in August, likely. So the school district's presenting plans, the city Parks and Rec, for example. And I guess the point being is that I think the county got pretty excited to get a share of the property tax, right, from pay-as-you-go. But now that money's kind of flying out the door. And we have municipalities, Jackpot, West Window, all these.
Yeah, it's funny how when you don't have any money and everybody understands you have no money, then fine, you have no money. But then all of a sudden you have a little bit of money, it's, oh, well, wait a minute, we need this. Yeah, so that's where we're at. For a brief moment, we had a big wallet, but no, there's a lot of things on the table that need to be fixed, and there's some things that would like to be fixed, and there's some things that we'd like to have. So that's the whole part of decision making.
And there'll be some way to prioritize that too. I mean, just bringing up things like Carlin wanted a splash pad, but there's no money for that. But we have money for other recreation needs, right?
Well, this is also where you get into the county's not Carlin. The Carlin's got to do their own thing. They're their own municipality. They also have some water issues with their regular infrastructure. So a splash pad myself was, yeah, it's a nice idea, but you also have some other burning problems. But I can't name all of them because I'm not on their city council, so I haven't been that involved with it. But yes, that's a prime example of what our needs, wants, and how big's our wallet.
So what do you think, and this might be something fun to close on, John, sending you off to the meeting, but do you think Elko County and the city perhaps might actually reconsider in the coming future, proceeds from marijuana sales? Because we know that the NUA dispensary is doing amazing business, lots and lots and lots of proceeds from that, tax dollars, of which the county, the city, the communities don't get a share.
I'm going to relook at again Jackpot. But I don't know the numbers off the top of my head of how much tax revenue is coming from that. But I definitely know that invigorated Jackpot to then have a Loves, or I don't remember which one went in, but it's really invigorated all of a sudden Jackpot going from almost nail in the coffin to, wow, the old shot of B12 and a little energy back in life. So no, it can be extremely lucrative, but it has to be managed wisely, just like anything. I don't really care for it myself. I'm not for legalized marijuana just because I've had employees that somehow showing up drunk to work is inappropriate, but smoking a little weed before work somehow is, I don't know, it's medicinal or what they think in their head. No, it's just as wrong. If you're stoned, you're high, you're whatever, you're still capable of doing your job. But forget all that part. I wish we would relook at it. Because it's here, it's legal, that's just how it is, and I think it'd be foolish not to control it. So I've actually talked to the dispensary guys in Jackpot that put one in Spring Creek, but it's just been more discussions, but that really hasn't proceeded much. But no, I wish the city would relook at it, and I think it needs to be there.
I know they're looking at a cannabis cultivation processing facility for White Pine County. I mean, you would think they would reject such a thing, but there's an application in right now. So
I was trying to get them to build one out at the railport because we have water rights and all that and acreage to do that, but we're kind of once again at a standstill. But
well, that could just again be a source of revenue for the future, right? If the property taxes are going out the door, then we might need more money to do more things.
Once again, I'm not for marijuana and all that, but no, it's there, it's legal, and why not? Why are we not using this that's legal? It's there, and burying our heads in the sand and pretending that no, see if we go against it, then when it doesn't exist, well, unfortunately, it's here. And why are we not helping control it? But I'm only one vote on that, and I'm not on the city council, so I still disagree with their thinking on that.
So that'll be a topic for future consideration. Again, the election's coming. There's not a lot of competition on the city council, but certainly it's just a valid conversation to have in the community.
Absolutely.
So thanks, John. From nuclear waste to marijuana, we kind of covered a lot of ground today. So thank you for being on the radio show. Thank you, listeners, for joining us. County meeting, again, will start at 1:15 with the fire board meeting, rolling right into the regular county commission session and then the health board session as well today.
Well, let's just hope the AC in that building doesn't go out, okay? So looking at the mercury thermometer so we know it's accurate, the temperature's going up.